What's up everybody, I'm BTrue, and today I'm going to bring you my monk build after patch 2.0.5 and the changes that happened to the classes. I only leveled up the monk to help farm a cinder coat, and I'm going to get into that in a different video because there's a slightly large explanation to it, but basically I don't really have any good gear on this character. I just needed to get a monk to level 70, but I figured I would show you guys the build that I used to get there. See what you guys think about it. So first off, we're going to start off with the primary, and this is our spirit generator, and I use Deadly Reach with Keen Eye. Now this is a fire monk build, so obviously the fire runes are very important once you start stacking fire damage. This also has the added bonus that every third hit increases your armor by 40%. And now when you don't have very good gear and you need survivability, this is very, very big for you. That 40% increase of your armor definitely helps you to survive when you need it. Otherwise, I would suggest you could possibly use Crippling Wave with the Mangle. It's more of an AoE skill there. It's a little bit slower, deals a little bit more damage. Or if you just want to worry about damage, I would go with Wave the Fist, Blazing Fists. That obviously does a lot more damage, as well as increases your attack speed on critical hits. So if you're going for attack damage, I would go for Wave of the 100 Fist. If you need a little more survivability, I'd go with Deadly Reach with Keen Eye. Next, I use Wave of Light with Explosive Light. Now, Explosive Light makes it 830% weapon damage, also turns into fire. This is a ton of damage, and it's a cool skill because it kind of goes out in a circle. You can see there all of your little fire buddies kind of run out there and damage a large area and a ton of damage, so that's a great skill to have. Next, I'm using Mantra of Conviction. Once again, if you need, you can use any of these mantras really however you like, depending on what you need. If you need a little bit more survivability, you can go with the Mantra of Healing or the Mantra of Evasion. I'm currently using the Mantra of Eviction to kind of help me kill stuff. I've been playing with parties, so that's obviously very important. I'm trying to help them do as much damage as possible. So the passive is the increased 10% damage to what enemies within 30 yards. I use Submission because this also adds an extra 38% weapon damage as wholly to those enemies who are affected, and that's going to synergize with Sweeping Wind, which I'll get to in a second. And then that active 20% bonus damage, that's very important when you're playing with a bunch of your allies and the people in a party, so you want to try and have that up as much as possible when fighting elite people, elite packs, so that everybody is doing it at 20% extra bonus damage, which really stacks on champions. Next, we have Sweeping Wind here, and I'm using this with the Firestorm rune. That makes it turn into fire damage. It also increases the vortex to 14 yards. You want to try and keep this up as much as possible, and this also synergizes with Dashing Strike because you're able to keep this up longer and keep yourself at 3 stacks as you move around. But then this is just, you know, up to a 90% damage per second, as well as a 38% weapon per second that you can get from the Mantra of Conviction with Submission. So you're dealing a lot of AoE damage around you while not really having to worry about using your skills too much. This is just kind of constant damage going by. Obviously you want to be dealing as much damage as possible. Next, like I said, we've got Dashing Strike. Now this is to help you cover distance. Obviously it does a lot of damage, but this way you're able to cover distance, and I use a Quicksilver. That way you have a maximum of 3 charges, because these charges help you to get out of dangerous spots when you need to. If you're in the middle of a whole bunch of AoE damage from elite bosses and champion packs, you can kind of use Dashing Strike to get out of there. You can also use this rune to chain into people when your Sweeping Wind is about to go down. You can use this to cover a large amount of space to hit the next enemy, kind of re-trigger the Sweeping Wind so it doesn't go away. So this is just a very good skill to have to cover space. Finally, we have Epiphany with Inner Fire. Now, Epiphany with Inner Fire, this turns, you engulf yourself in flames and your attacks do 353% weapon damage as fire. So I'll show you here real quick. You turn into this, and when you attack, you shoot out a fireball that hits and explodes, doing 353% weapon damage. So this not only increases your spirit regeneration by 20, it also allows your melee attacks to instantly dash to people, which helps with your Sweeping Wind as well, but then you've got the 353% weapon damage fireball that shoots out when you use your abilities. Now for the passives really depend on what you are using and who you're playing with and what kind of a build you need. Now I have Guardian's Path and Near Death Experience because like I said, I don't really have good gear at all on this character. and I don't want to be dying very often, so I use near-death experience, which is very, very good at keeping you alive. A lot of survivability after this pops. And then Guardian's Path gives me the 15% increased chance to dodge. This is just to help me survive a little bit longer, like I said. Now, if you are playing with people, I would use Unity, because then this increases your damage that you're using by everyone who is affected by your mantras. So when you are using the active on Mantra of Conviction and your damage bonus is increased, and then this is going to help everybody who is being affected by your mantra, you're going to get up to 20% increased damage, as well as they are going to have 5% increased damage. So it's going to be adding a whole bunch of damage to you. Obviously, the one with everything rune is very good, or passive is very good if you need survivability. Like I said, I have near-death experience with that. Mythic Rhythm. This is really good for increasing the damage of your Wave of Light, because after you get a third hit from your Spirit Generator, you have an increased 40% damage on your next Spirit Spender, so 40% damage on top of the 830% damage. It's going to add a ton of damage. I use Chant of Resonance because this gives you an extra 2 spirit per second when you have a mantra on, as well as reduces the mantra activation cost by 50%. So this goes down to 25 spirit, and you're able to have this mantra up the entire time you're fighting an enemy boss, just to kind of help you and your allies do a bunch of damage to the enemy people. Some other things you can use depending on what you want. If you want a more spirit, Exalted Soul is very good for what you have. More toughness, your Seize the Initiative is good because it gives you an extra 30% armor on top of the 40 you can get from Deadly Reach. There's a whole bunch of things that you can use with these. So these are kind of up to you depending on what you want to do and what you need out of your build. So the passives of the monk are very, very flexible. Now for Paragon Points, I have obviously you need what you want. Put as many as you need into movement speed to get 25% movement speed. You want to be moving as fast as possible to get to enemies to keep your sweeping wind up. And the rest I just put into dexterity. I probably should have it into vitality, but I'll leave it in dexterity for now. Critical hit chance is very important with this build because obviously it increases your damage, but also gets you to 3 stacks of sweeping wind faster. So you want to have as much critical hit chance as possible. That's why I have all my points in critical hit chance. I kind of divvied them up between resist all, armor, and life, with a little heavier emphasis on resist all, just to kind of help me with survivability. And then finally life on hit, just some more survivability. So yeah, so this, like I said, I don't have good gear whatsoever. You can see here I only have 3.2 million toughness, 132,000 damage. That is horrible, which is why this gameplay is going to be on expert, just so that I can show you guys what's going on right now. And yeah, so let's get into some gameplay. Alright, so like I said before, you want to try and keep your sweeping wind up as much as possible because that's going to do a lot of damage. So you want to use your dashing strike to kind of get to enemies. And you can see there, your Wave of Light does a pretty considerable amount of damage. So that's something that's very important if you want to have. So here, you can see dashing strike to the enemy, keeps your sweeping wind up, it refreshes the time on it. Also, having that third extra one allows you to use it more often. Plus, you're able to get out of any sticky situations that you may find yourself into. You can see here, you can use Mantra of Conviction. It barely uses any of your spirit whatsoever. It increases the damage that you're doing. And it kind of just allows you to kill people a little bit faster. And then you can dashing strike around and kind of maneuver the way that you need to. But the main importance, like I said, is just keeping your sweeping wind up at the highest stacks as possible, and then alternating your Wave of Light with your Spirit Spender or your Spirit Generator. That way you get the bonus from your passive. And then I save Epiphany for whenever I find Elite and Champion packs, obviously. And it looks like here. See right there, you can use your dashing strike to kind of keep yourself, keep your sweeping wind up when it looks like you're about to lose it. You're able to cover a ton of distance in a very short amount of time, and that helps you keep it up here. And I'm not finding any Elite or Champion packs right now, so I'm gonna see if I can find one and show you guys here, so that way Basically what you want to do is you want to keep your mantra active up the entire time, because 20% increased damage is obviously a lot. And then the increased spirit generated from Epiphany allows you to not only keep that up, but also use your Wave of Light a lot. You want to alternate your spirit spenders with your spirit generator. That way you get every third hit, you get that increased 40% damage. And then you also have the 20% increased damage from your mantra. So all the spirit generated from Epiphany really helps you with that. Okay, so here we go. We got an elite pack. So you want to use Epiphany, keep your mantra up the entire time, and then just kind of rotate between your spirit spender and your spirit generator, and keep the damage up. Another thing that I really like about Deadly Reach is that it has the 50% chance to kind of to knock people up on the third hit, which is, I mean, it ends up mitigating a lot of damage that you could be taking, because that is a time when they're in the air that the attacks that you are not taking, it is time when they can't be attacking you. So it actually adds a ton of like toughness, not only between the added armor, but then also the time where they're in the air where you're not taking damage. And it's a 50% chance, so obviously the higher your attack speed, the more often it's going to go. But yeah, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this build. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, stay up to date with my future Reaper of Souls videos. Like I said, I'm going to make a video explaining why the monk is the best to farm a cinder coat on for your demon hunter. I'm going to make that video in the next day or two here, so I'll probably put a link in the description also for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this build, please give it a like. If you enjoyed the video at all, also please give it a like. And please let me know what you think about the build. If you guys run it yourself, or if there's something else you would change, something you guys, any questions you might have, please leave a comment below. I like hearing from you guys, and I want to know what you guys think about this. So, without further ado, hope you guys have a great night, and I will see you in the next episode.